What's up, guys? Jeremy Conn here. It is the Lowdown. Pickdawgz.com is the place to go. Please click the like, subscribe, and that notification button will tell you every time I post something here. So I just want to update on a couple things. I was on that winning streak 6 straight days, and I had my worst day since I joined Pickdawgz. Went 1-4, and I was on a couple of those games, which I know we all know them. The Orioles game on Thursday night's a perfect example. Where one team does all the work and the other team doesn't show up on an over. Great hitting conditions. You got a pitcher that's just on one. Of course, Jacob deGrom was doing that last night or Thursday, whatever. And then, of course, the Cubs game, too, is a 9.5 total and 9-0. So frustrating plays at times, when you see stuff like that go down. But what I'm going to try to do on here is I'm going to talk about the weather quite a bit, and you guys know that. It's kind of what I focus in on. I know some people have looked at it and went, the weather, really? Yeah, I think it gives you a huge edge, and it's not as cut and dry as to say, okay, the wind's blowing out at 10 miles an hour, I'm taking the over. Now, what I do is I look at the pitching matchups, I do all of my work, and then whatever work that I've done, I've handicapped that matches up with where the weather is good, those end up being my top plays. And I mean, it's been pretty good so far. Even after that losing day, still up over 60%. And hopefully we can continue this. But enough about me. I'll get into the plays. But there might be some times where I talk about a game and there's not weather related that I want to talk about the pitching matchup because, I don't know, some of this, maybe it helps you when I'm breaking down some of these pitchers and giving you my thought process on, fly ball pitcher, strikeout pitcher, ground ball, extreme ground ball. And I think these things matter. Like I play a ton of daily fantasy. I've had a lot of success over there as well. And I think a lot of this stuff correlates with each other in looking at great hitting conditions. Like if you were playing daily fantasy, you'd stack up all your players in those games. And feel like we've been pretty good. We've been on the right ones. The worst that I had, the Royals over against the Rays. And Rasmussen, again, he was just on another one. And when the Rays kept getting guys on and getting out, doing what they do, ground out, fly out, whatever, strikeout, but they ended up winning 3-0 on a total that was 8.5, 9. So, all right, let me talk about these plays here because I got 4 games I'm going to go over. Forgive me as I do the glasses thing. I know it's annoying, and I'll be looking down. But let's start off with the Blue Jays and Red Sox. I don't feel like I've had a chance really to talk about the Blue Jays all that much. Jose Barrios, I've heard it pronounced both ways, and Brian Bayo for the Red Sox. The wind is in towards third base, about 8 miles an hour, roughly. It's in the mid-60s. Now, both of these guys, I really like Bayo's makeup. Really haven't seen what his ceiling's going to be. I think they were hopeful that he would have taken a big step forward this year, and we haven't seen that. But I do think he's good enough to keep this Blue Jays team at bay. I've talked about the Jays before. They strike out the least amount of any team in baseball. And as I look at the matchup, Barrios was a guy that when he was with Minnesota, he was just a lockdown. You're not getting anything. He might strike out 8 or 9, and now it's a little bit different. I'm not saying he doesn't get Ks, but he gets a lot more ground balls, and he's got to work through some things a little bit more. I mean, the whip can get chunky at times. And that's walks, hits, and it just tells you how many guys you're putting on base. So, but with that, I would lean under here. Even with you get the wind blowing in and colder temps, and I hate saying colder temps when it's mid-60s, but you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of 90-degree and up around the country. So I would lean towards the under in that play. Let's go to the Giants and White Sox. Wind is out to left at 8 miles an hour, 85 degrees, very, very humid. And when you look at these teams, we're going to have Aaron Savali in this game. I don't know that anybody's afraid of that. And Landon Roop, both of these guys, at times, like fly ball pitcher, the wind's blowing out. This is the White Sox stadium where, God, I don't even know what it's called now. It used to be U.S. Cellular. It doesn't matter. They keep changing the the names of these stadiums and who sponsors them. But that being said, the White Sox stadium was the stadium that gave up the most home runs in all of baseball for a while. And they had good pitching. They had good hitting at those times. I don't know if that's the case still now. But, we have the 2 bandboxes with the minor league stadiums. You have Coors Field, and the AL East is littered with hitters' parks. Well, it used to be. I know the Orioles moved the fences back and then in a little bit, and I think other teams are starting to do that too. But with all that being said, I would lean towards the over here. I think with 2 fly ball pitchers, a little help, and it's humid. I love the fact that it's going to be humid there. I think this is a very, very good overplay. Let's get to the Nats and Angels. 80 degrees, wind out to center. This quite an interesting matchup too. When you look at the fact that I know people are going to look at the Nats and the Angels, and there doesn't appear to be a ton of power on those teams. I mean, of course, we could look at the Angels and go Mike Trout, Taylor Ward can hit him out. Hell, Joe Adell has a ton of power. I know they've gotten a little bit healthier now. And I think when we was doing the morning show the other day, we went over it. The Angels were the most profitable road team in all of baseball, or the second most profitable. Just something weird and that I thought was kind of interesting about it. But in this game, I would still look at the over here just because we do have teams that will run. They get on base, stolen bases. We can get a ton of those. The temperatures are fairly good, decent between these two teams, but I just don't see an issue with taking an over in a spot like this where – again, good temperature, good hitting conditions, something clearly that we could look at. And as I'm trying to get, I didn't write down. Yeah, we had Michael Soroka and Kyle Hendricks. And Hendricks has been Houdini this year. Sorry, I didn't write it down. I must have just not wrote it down. But with Hendricks kind of been like Houdini, and outside of one bad start, Soroka has been fantastic. I mean, if I'm looking at his he's got a 1.09 whip and an ERA over 5. And when I say one bad start, it was an awful start. I mean, I think he gave up like 7 runs in a short period of time. Kyle Hendricks with a 4.83, but he's got a 1.32 whip. How the hell does he keep getting out of jams? His ERA just went down a little bit. This is a guy that hits a ton of bats, but he gets a lot of ground balls. And if he's working right, he can work through some lineups. I made fun of him the other day that he didn't strike out anyone. And in that game later that night, I think he struck out 8 or 9. I'm going, Jesus, how does that happen? But, it does. The other thing I'm going to try to do here before I give out the free play is let you guys know all the stadiums that it's saying that the wind is good, bad, whatever. Good for pitchers, good for hitters, however you want to look at it. With today, the Twins and Tigers, wind is in at 10 miles an hour. Same thing with the A's and Yankees. You guys can do with that what you want, but that is a help to the pitchers, clearly, when the wind's blowing in, especially in some of these stadiums that are a little bit smaller. And one of the weird things I heard from a few baseball players is that at Tiger Stadium, they like the backdrop. So where you look at a good hitting park, or it's they call it a hitter's park. Excuse me, Yankee Stadium, like where the Rays are playing now. Anytime they're telling you it's a hitter's park, you got the jet streams, or you've got short porches left, right. Or even everywhere, there's in some of these, but the jet streams, it happens at Yankee Stadium all the time, especially down that right field line. You get the ball down there and then all of a sudden it's gone. But with these games, the wind is blowing in, so it's always a help just getting to that point. All right, let me give you the free play of the day. It's going to be in the Padres and Reds. If you guys are just watching this or you haven't heard me talk about it, I guess I'll go over it here briefly. I'm a big fan of when it rains on the East Coast and it's hot at a few stadiums. Looking at New York, Philly, Pittsburgh, Camden Yards with the Orioles, the Nationals, the Reds is a big spot, and the Braves are some of the teams that I don't know what it is about the humidity and just seeing home runs fly out of the ballpark. And is the pitcher wearing down faster because he's sweating so much? And I know it sounds kind of silly, but all these things, you talk to the players and they'll tell you, yeah, these you get later in those games, or in the outfield, you're standing out there waiting for this guy to get an out. It does not feel comfortable. And I know, boo-hoo, you're making $1 million. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, these games tend to go over. And here we have the Padres and Reds. Feels like 90 degrees. Wind out the left, about 7 miles an hour. I don't consider anything under 10 like a huge help. It's always a bump if the wind's blowing out. There's no question. But when I'm looking for that, what I would consider an edge, you're usually going to see it about 10 miles an hour blowing out, or some really, really hot and humid conditions, or that's what I look for. But with this Padres-Reds game, you get Dylan Cease and Nick Martinez, and there's a little bit of rain in the forecast here. And with these East Coast stadiums, when it's hot and it rains, like Camden Yards the other night, since I'm in Baltimore, they had it's a pop-up storm out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, this wasn't even on the radar. And then all of a sudden the game plays, and next thing you know, they've hit 3 home runs by the third inning, and you're going, all right, this is where we want to be. So I look at spots like this, and I think people will see Dylan Cease and go, oh, my God, no, Dylan Cease, he's going to mow these guys down. I love Dylan Cease. I love his slider. He's still a guy that has an ERA in the mid-4s, or above 4. And with that being said, you bump in good hitting conditions, and he's on the road. Yeah, I have no problem attacking a pitcher like that in these types of conditions. And Nick Martinez, I don't know what to say about him because I feel like I thought he was going to be a better strikeout pitcher than he actually is. At times we still see it, but I don't see what the Reds saw in him when they first got him. And as you're looking at, kind of what he's done this year, I think the numbers look fine. If he gives you 5 innings, I think you're happy with that. But I do expect him to throw a lot of pitches. My free play on this game would be on the over. So, guys, appreciate you listening. I'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Make sure you're checking out Pickdawgz.com, checking out the premium picks. We have a ton of great things going on over there. I know I've been putting out 3-packs and 5-packs. Call it the 5-run homer and the triple play. I guess I got to come up with some creative, goofy names for different things during football season, or some alliteration that works. With that being said, definitely check out the packages. The weather play of the day has been really solid this year. Anyway, let me get out of here. I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, guys.